It's Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Long Beach. Today we are joined by Laura Doud. She is the city auditor of the city of Long Beach, an elected position. You wrote an article for the Long Beach Press-Telegram. Very well done, if I may say.
Thank you.
The commentary was titled, Why Internal Audits of Government Agencies Matter. What I liked about it is you kind of acknowledge that maybe auditing is not so sexy, but it's important. Give us a sense as to why auditing is important.
Well, thank you. I think most organizations, strive to do their best. They want to do their best, but it's really hard to govern yourselves, to look at yourselves objectively and to find if there are, in fact, weaknesses exist. So I think the importance of an independent audit is to go in with fresh eyes and look to see if internal control weaknesses exist, if there's anything that isn't on the up and up, and so with independence and with fresh eyes, I think it really helps.
And that's really the key. It's the independence, it's the objectivity, it's the transparency. I had mentioned I had worked many years ago for a company, and that company provided product to various outlets in an entertainment setting. And it wound up that someone had been embezzling about $100,000 a year over 10 years. And they had no idea it was happening.
Yeah.
And it's really crushing.
It is.
I mean, the violation of trust. But you believe through that independent audit, it can get caught more quickly and easily.
Yes, and fraud is a difficult thing to catch. The majority of our cases do come from tips. That's why we let people know, we try to let people know, become aware of our fraud hotline, and to be aware and alert of potential fraud that may exist. A lot of our tips come from employees that have more of an insight and can see things that don't really look right.
What's amazing to me about fraud is in your article you talked about a report that was issued last year through the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and they estimate that organizations lose 5% of revenue a year to fraud. 5%? I would have thought it'd be 0.5%.
Yes.
Were you surprised that number was so high?
It is surprising. You hate to hear it. But as auditors, we do try to trust, because we realize the majority of the people are hardworking, trustworthy, dedicated individuals. But we must verify at auditors. We trust but verify. And there are, fraud does exist. There are people who decide to do it, and unfortunately it does exist.
The challenge you probably face, and you talk about it in your article, is that when the auditor arrives, a fear just permeates the entire room. There's a sense that the auditor is here to find something, it's here to play gotcha, and no matter what we do, they're going to find something and blame, and my life's going to be over because they're going to accuse me of something. Talk to me about how you address that fear.
Our goal isn't to embarrass and criticize and make big headlines and to ruin people's careers. It really is to vet out fraud and to really make things better, to improve things. There really is zero tolerance for fraud, especially within government. I mean, everywhere. When you're dealing with taxpayers' dollars, there is an extra level of responsibility associated with protecting the dollars.
But what about when it's not out and out fraud, but maybe mismanagement, or even what's below mismanagement? Just they didn't know. There was just poor accounting practices, and that's where people get scared. Is that look, I didn't steal any money, but you don't know what you don't know, and so how do you address that situation where you're really there and you find places where you can offer suggestions for improvement? People can get defensive.
Right, that's point well taken. I think we try to say, look, we're not going to pretend that we don't have problems. Everybody has problems somewhere. Let's identify the weaknesses and let's find solutions and fix it and move on. Is there anything wrong with that, really? I mean, we're not going to try to make a big deal about it, but let's identify the problems, fix them, and move on.
And do you find that when you're auditing various departments in Long Beach, that they do appreciate your role and understand you're not there to embarrass them, that your solutions are really to help and are for the benefit of the greater good?
I think we're making headway in that direction. Again, the word audit, and when the auditors come in, it's very typical of what you
anxiety creating.
Yes, but we are trying to show that we want what's best for
Right.
the city as well, and we're doing what we can to improve things. And together, let's partner together. We want their ideas, we want their buy-in. We can't make changes
Right.
without their support, and so we're trying to show that we want to partner with them and make improvements together.
And there's your other challenge. You come up with a report, no fraud, but 10 suggestions, 10 recommendations, but not 10 demands, because you don't have the authority to demand change. No, even the elected controller of the state of California cannot demand change. And so how do you use your position to really convince these folks that you need to adopt these 10 solutions?
Well, I must say that I have a very professional staff that works really, really hard. They're educated, credentialed, they're dedicated and devoted to government, and we put a lot of heart and soul into our reports. And it's important that they do take our recommendations to heart. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're doing a follow-up audit and seeing how many of our audit recommendations have been implemented. And we will be coming out with a report in the next couple of months to show the percentage of all of our recommendations in the past 5 years of which have been implemented or not.
What's the history been?
I'm not getting a really strong sense that there has been a lot of implementation.
It's frustrating.
There has been some, but there have been budget challenges,
That's
and
true.
there have been staff
The last
reductions.
5 years has been hard.
And so, but I think it's important to come out with this report to show how much of our recommendations have been implemented, and if not, why not, and how can we take the next step to make sure that they are.
You, I remember a few years ago, uncovered some malfeasance, embezzlement out of the animal care facility. It was about $600,000. That's $600,000 too much, but it was nothing compared to what happened in Pasadena. And you talked about it in your article. I covered it when it happened. Tell us about the Pasadena case. It was shocking in its breadth and scope.
Yes, and it was a utility users underground fund that not very many people knew about. There was
That's the problem. And
there was council members that were confused on where all this money was going. And it was just a very, very low-level employee who had access to this fund and really had sole responsibility over this fund and was able to embezzle millions, over $6 million over 10 years.
And here's what's so frustrating. As this was being uncovered, Pasadena, God bless them, they were facing budget deficits, and they were eliminating internal audit positions.
Yes, right. You know, and so
perfect storm.
Right, it's exactly right. That's a perfect storm for something like this to happen. Thank goodness that somebody was watching and did ask questions, but it was too late. And unfortunately, they, in their budget cuts, did eliminate the internal auditor. And we're just trying to say that in a time of budget cuts and less people, there's less oversight, there's less segregation of duties because there are less people, and all the more reason and importance for auditing to ensure that there are proper checks and balances in place.
When you do find fraud, the $600,000 at Animal Services, $6 million in Pasadena, do you tend to be able to recapture it, or is it usually gone?
I think it's usually gone. In this case, this woman
in Animal Services.
In Animal Services, she actually only we only got her for, I believe it was $295,000 over an 11-month period of time, because she had worked for the city for 20 years, but they had a manual system, and it was difficult to have the audit trail to show that she had. So we only got her for 1 year, but when she pled guilty and when the court gave her sentence, it was
with restitution.
With restitution for $600,000.
I see. Her name is Laura Doud. I'm Pomerance. It's Charter Local Edition.